From Jindris, Obeida has now moved to Azaz in Syria. Obeida, the airstrikes and artillery attacks, according to the regime and Russian forces, target rebels. Well, we know that obviously civilians have also been hit in the crossfire, but how much are the rebels who are the targets of these attacks able to fight back?
Thanks, Adnan. As I mentioned in the report, the humanitarian conditions on the ground are worsening. And at the same time, the attacks by the Russian-backed Air Force and the regime are intensifying in southern Idlib. What we have heard from our sources on the ground is that there have been a series of skirmishes focused around a key town called Afrin May in southern Idlib. Overnight, the regime managed to retake that particular town in southern Idlib. People who were there told us that it was like a carpet bombing campaign. The regime relentlessly conducted airstrikes and artillery strikes on Afrin May until they pushed anybody who was in there, including civilians or opposition fighters, out. Now, the opposition has, amassed some forces in that area. However, it's hard for them to resist relentless airstrikes. We're talking about airstrikes that are happening few seconds apart, that are not stopping and have been ongoing for at least the past week.
How worried are people? What were they saying to you about their concerns regarding a possible full-scale assault on Idlib? This, after all, is the last part of Syria that the regime doesn't control.
So the people that we spoke with were extremely concerned. People had already left their homes and had spent some time under some trees. Some had found other places to take shelter. But the people that we saw were extremely concerned that even the areas that they had reached, which were not being attacked by the regime, were at risk of being attacked. One gentleman had packed his family in his truck. He said that we are living in an area where there aren't any attacks at the moment, but we want to get out because we think that the regime is going to conduct an all-out assault on Idlib province. This is a concern that many others share with these civilians. I had the chance to speak to the executive director of an NGO here in Turkey that carries out aid operations in Idlib, and he told me that they had to close their office in Afrin May in southern Idlib because of the intense airstrikes. The employees, the people who run the operation in southern Idlib, were not willing to stay and carry out aid operations there. So it's becoming very difficult for any kind of aid or support or relief to reach people who are in need, coupled with the attacks that are coming from the air, and now ground forces are involved. People are escaping for their lives, and they're not willing to stay back and find out what happens. The other problem is that many of the attacks are actually targeting very important infrastructure, including hospitals and aid workers. And this is making people very concerned and causing them to flee towards the north, some of them reaching the Turkish border, just on the other side of the Turkish border near Azaz, here where I am, taking shelter underneath trees or trying to enter into camps. We've heard from people that they're frustrated that there's not enough aid, there's not enough help for them, but we're hearing from Turkish officials that they are making plans and they are preparing to provide some relief to these people, and we'll have to see how that develops over the next few days.
Obeida, appreciated. My colleague Obeida Hitto in Azaz in Syria.